Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. Picture this, February 2020. A man wakes up in a Moscow intensive care unit, completely disoriented. He's strapped to the bed with 6-inch tethers because, in his unconscious state, he kept trying to rip out his own catheters. The voices around him speak a language he doesn't understand, and the previous weeks are just gone from his memory. He's confused, furious, and feels utterly betrayed. That man was Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, one of the most influential and controversial public intellectuals alive today. And the nightmare journey that landed him in that Russian hospital, fighting for his very survival, is woven into every page of the book we're exploring, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. This isn't just a sequel to his massive bestseller, 12 Rules for Life, which sold millions of copies worldwide and turned Peterson into a global phenomenon. That first book was subtitled An Antidote to Chaos, a lifeline for people whose worlds had fallen apart, a practical manual for bringing order to the mess. It famously told people to start by cleaning their room. But Beyond Order flips the script and asks a far more dangerous question. What happens after you've cleaned your room? What happens when the very rules you've built your life on start to feel like a cage? What do you do when the real threat isn't chaos anymore, but the suffocating weight of too much order? While writing this book, Peterson's own life was hit by a series of devastating catastrophes. His wife of 30 years, Tammy, was diagnosed with an incredibly rare and terminal form of cancer. His daughter, Mikhaila, went through a grueling surgery to replace a failing artificial ankle. And right in the middle of this family crisis, Peterson himself descended into what he describes as a living hell, a severe physical dependence on a prescribed anti-anxiety medication that led to a paradoxical reaction, unbearable suffering, and ultimately a medically induced coma in a foreign country. He wrote and edited this book while passing through that fire. He tested its ideas not in the peaceful comfort of an academic office, but in the sterile, beeping chaos of ICUs and rehab centers, where he had to relearn basic functions like walking and even typing. So what you're about to experience isn't just another self-help book. It's a philosophy hammered out in the crucible of real suffering. It's a map for navigating the dangerous territory that lies beyond what we know, beyond the safety of our comfortable routines, beyond order itself. By the end of our journey today, you'll understand the profound secret at the heart of this book, that the deepest meaning in life isn't found in safety and security, but on that terrifying frontier between order and chaos, and that the greatest opportunities are often hiding exactly where responsibility has been abandoned. This is a guide for awakening the hero that lies dormant within you, just waiting for the call to adventure. To truly grasp the world Dr. Peterson lays out in Beyond Order, you first have to understand that you're living inside a story. You might not realize it, but you are. Your life isn't just a random sequence of events. It's a drama unfolding. You are a character on a journey. You're somewhere right now, and you're heading somewhere else. And the world you experience is made up of 3 fundamental elements. Imagine the world as an ancient, sprawling map. On that map exist 2 vast domains, order and chaos. Order is the territory you know. It's your home, your family, your traditions, your daily routines. It's where your actions produce the results you expect. When you turn the key in your car and it starts, that's order. It's the comfort of the predictable, the safety of the familiar. In our great myths, this is symbolized by the wise king, the benevolent father, the protective walls of the city. It's culture itself, the structure that shields us from the harsh realities of existence. But here's the thing about order. It has its dark side. It can become rigid, outdated, and blind to new realities. When taken too far, the wise king morphs into the authoritarian tyrant, and those protective walls become a prison. This is the danger of too much security, too much control. Then there's chaos. Chaos is the great unknown. It's the unexplored territory beyond the edge of your map. It's the unexpected event. The car that won't start, the sudden illness, the job loss, the pandemic. It's anomaly, novelty, and transformation all rolled into one. In our myths, chaos often appears as a great dragon, a monster lurking in the deep, or the destructive, untamed power of nature. It's terrifying because it can undo everything you've carefully built. But it's also the source of everything new, exciting, and bursting with potential. Without chaos, life stagnates and dies. Peterson argues that a meaningful life isn't found by choosing one and rejecting the other, but by standing on the razor's edge right between them. We need one foot firmly planted in order, while we stretch the other tentatively into the chaos of the unknown. That's the place where adventure happens, where learning occurs, where profound meaning lives. The third element is you, the individual, the conscious mind that mediates between these two great forces. You are the hero of your own story, the one who must confront the chaos and transform it into habitable order. But how do you become a hero, especially when you feel small, confused, or lost? Peterson's first rule in this new set gives us a surprising starting point. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. This sounds conservative, and in a way it is, but it's rooted in a deep psychological truth. He tells the story of a client he worked with for years, a man who was profoundly lonely and isolated. His childhood was a nightmare of neglect, and as an adult he had no family ties and struggled terribly with social interaction. For over a decade, their therapy sessions followed an unusual pattern. The client would talk for 50 minutes straight, and Peterson would just listen intently, in total silence. Only in the last 10 minutes could they have an actual conversation. Why did this bizarre approach work? Because, as Peterson realized, we don't really think in a vacuum. We think by talking. We need to articulate our past, present, and future to others to keep our own minds organized. When you talk, you listen to yourself, and you begin sorting through the chaos in your head. Other people, by listening, nodding, or raising an eyebrow, act as mirrors. They constantly give you subtle cues that keep you on the straight and narrow path of sanity. In a very real sense, Peterson says, we outsource the problem of sanity to the people around us. Those people make up our social institutions, our families, friendships, workplaces. These structures have evolved over thousands of years to solve the fundamental problems of human existence. To dismiss them carelessly, as if they're nothing but oppressive constructs, is the height of ignorance and ingratitude. Are they flawed? Absolutely. But they're also the ship that keeps us afloat on the chaotic sea. To find your place in these structures, you often have to start at the bottom. The tarot deck has a card for this, the Fool. He's depicted as a young man about to step off a cliff, but his eyes are lifted to the heavens. His strength is his willingness to be a beginner, to risk looking foolish in order to learn. No one who's unwilling to be a fool can ever become a master. Peterson shares the story of a young waiter who approached him in a restaurant. The young man said he'd been watching Peterson's lectures and had decided to stop being cynical about his low-status job. Instead, he chose to be grateful and to work as hard as he possibly could, just to see what would happen. The result? He was promoted 3 times in 6 months. He had accepted his role as a beginner embraced the structure he was in, and found opportunity where he had previously only seen humiliation. But order, tradition, and hierarchy aren't enough on their own. They can become stagnant and tyrannical. That's why they must be balanced by creative achievement. And this brings us to what is perhaps the most central rule of the entire book. Imagine who you could be, and then aim single-mindedly at that. Who could you be? You are vastly more complex than you can possibly understand, filled with potential that transcends your own imagination. To guide us toward this potential, humanity has for thousands of years told stories. These aren't just for entertainment. The great myths, the unforgettable stories that echo across cultures, are maps. They're distilled wisdom about the ideal personality, the hero, and the path that hero must walk. They speak to something we know deep down, but don't consciously know that we know. Peterson takes us on a fascinating dive into one of the oldest hero myths we have, the 4,000-year-old Mesopotamian story, the Enuma Elish. It begins with Tiamat, the dragon goddess of salt water and chaos, and her husband Apsu, the god of fresh water and order. Their union creates the first gods, who turn out to be noisy, impulsive, and careless. In their thoughtlessness, they kill their father, Apsu. This enrages Tiamat, and chaos itself rises up to destroy her children. The gods are terrified. One after another, they try to face her, and all of them fail miserably. Finally, they turn to a young, promising new god named Marduk. Marduk is special. He's born with eyes all around his head. He can see in every direction, and he can speak magic words. He represents the highest of human values: careful attention and truthful, effective speech. Marduk agrees to face the dragon of chaos, but only if the other gods agree that, should he win, he'll become their ultimate king. He confronts Tiamat, defeats her, and from her dismembered body he creates the heavens and the earth. He brings a new, higher order out of the chaotic abyss. This ancient story, Peterson explains, is a blueprint for your own life. When the order in your life is carelessly destroyed, the terrible forces of chaos will reemerge. At that point, a hero, that part of you representing your highest values, must arise to confront that chaos voluntarily. That hero is the part of you that pays attention, even to what's terrifying, and speaks the truth. That's how you create habitable order out of the mess of your life. This same pattern appears everywhere. It's the story of St. George slaying the dragon to rescue the maiden. It's Bilbo in The Hobbit facing the dragon Smaug. It's even Harry Potter, a modern hero, descending into the Chamber of Secrets to face a giant serpent, a basilisk, to save Ginny. In that story, Harry is bitten by the basilisk and dies, only to be revived by the magical tears of a phoenix. The phoenix is a mythical bird that can die and be reborn from its own ashes, a symbol of transformation. The story tells us something profound. To defeat the great dragons of life, a part of you must die. The old, naive, outdated parts of your personality must be shed, often painfully, so that a new, stronger, wiser self can emerge. This is the journey of aiming at who you could be. You pick the best target you can imagine, the highest good you can conceive, and you stumble toward it. You'll make mistakes, you'll fall short, but you'll learn. And as you learn, you'll refine your aim, you'll transform. But what if you don't know where to aim? What if the past is dragging you down? This brings us to another set of powerful rules. Do not hide unwanted things in the fog, and if old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely. Many of us live surrounded by a self-imposed fog. We refuse to think clearly about our problems, our failures, our deepest desires. Why? Because if you know precisely what you want, you'll also know precisely when you're failing to get it. And that knowledge is painful. So you keep things vague. You drift. But, Peterson warns, you cannot hit a target you refuse to see. He tells a simple, amusing story about his father-in-law, a man who for 20 years ate his lunch off of small bread-and-butter plates without ever saying a word. Then one day he finally snapped. Why in the world do we always eat off these tiny plates? His wife had absolutely no idea it bothered him. It seems trivial, but Peterson points out that life is what repeats. If a small irritation happens every single day, it's not actually small, it's your entire life. Collect 1,000 of those unaddressed, minor irritations, and your life becomes a quiet misery. A more tragic story involves a client whose husband dominated every aspect of their home life. He chose all the showy, uncomfortable furniture and filled the walls with pop art she absolutely despised. For decades, she never said a word, telling herself it wasn't worth fighting about. But with each unspoken disagreement, she became less and less present in her own home, in her own marriage, until she felt like a stranger living in someone else's life. The marriage eventually ended after 30 years. She avoided the small battles and lost the entire war. The lesson is crystal clear. Have the difficult conversation. It's better to face the conflict and clear the air than to let unspoken resentment build up like a slow-acting poison. But what about the truly terrible things? The old memories that still ambush you with fear, shame, or guilt? Peterson explains that when a memory still carries a powerful negative emotional charge, it means your brain has flagged it as a place where you fell into a pit, and you still don't know how to avoid falling in again. The memory haunts you because there's vital, potentially life-saving information trapped within it that you haven't yet extracted. The way to do this, he suggests, is to write about it, carefully and completely. He describes working with a client, a young man who'd had a psychotic break after being viciously bullied in college. He could barely speak coherently. Peterson had him use a writing program to break his life into epochs and describe the key events, both positive and negative. As the young man wrote and talked through the details of his torment, something remarkable happened. His psychotic symptoms receded. He became more articulate, more present. He put himself back together by transforming the raw horror of his past into an understood narrative. He mapped the unexplored, dangerous territory of his own memory, and, in doing so, freed himself from its ghosts. This brings us to the heart of Peterson's message, the idea that brought audiences around the world to stunned silence, the idea of responsibility. This is embodied in the rule. Notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. Many people think the meaning of life is found in happiness. Peterson disagrees strongly. Happiness is fleeting. It's a right-now thing that vanishes quickly. A more reliable source of positive emotion comes not from attaining a goal, but from the pursuit of a valuable goal. It's the sense of moving forward, of making progress. And what gives a goal its value? The amount of responsibility you're willing to take on to achieve it. He says bluntly, no happiness in the absence of responsibility. If you want to become invaluable in a workplace or in any community, just do the useful things no one else is doing. Don't wait to be asked or given permission. See a problem that's been neglected, a responsibility that's been abdicated, and make it yours. It's often the difficult, risky, necessary things that hold the most meaning. He shares the ancient Egyptian story of Osiris, the great king who established culture but then grew old and willfully blind. He ignored the scheming of his evil brother Set, who eventually murdered him, cut his body into pieces, and scattered them across the land. The kingdom fell into chaos and tyranny. It was Osiris's son, Horus, the falcon-headed god, whose defining feature is his all-seeing eye, who rose to the challenge. Horus voluntarily confronted his evil uncle, defeated him, and restored order. But he didn't stop there. He journeyed into the underworld, found the shattered spirit of his dead father, and gave him his own eye, restoring his father's vision. This is a profound metaphor. Rescuing your father from the belly of the beast means revitalizing the traditions and wisdom of the past that have become dead, broken, or corrupt. It means taking on the responsibility that your predecessors abdicated and breathing new life into the culture. That's where the deepest meaning lives. It's not in comfort and ease. It's in struggle. It's in shouldering a heavy load. As Peterson puts it, you positively need to be occupied with something weighty, deep, profound, and difficult. This voluntary acceptance of responsibility is the ultimate antidote to the three great temptations that lead to a life of misery, resentment, deceit, and arrogance. This is the focus of Rule 11. Do not allow yourself to become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant. Life is suffering. That's a truth echoed in almost every major religion and philosophy. You will be betrayed. You will get sick. People you love will die. The world is often brutally unjust. It's easy, almost logical, to become resentful. Resentment whispers seductively in your ear. You are a victim. Life has been unfair to you. You are justified in your anger, in your desire for revenge. This feeling, this sense of victimization, is the gateway to two other evils. The first is deceit. When you feel the world has wronged you, you start believing you're justified in bending the rules, in lying to get what you feel you're owed. The second is arrogance. The arrogance of believing that your suffering is unique and that it gives you the right to judge and condemn the very structure of existence itself. It's the arrogance of the liar who thinks he can twist reality to his own will and get away with it. This triad, resentment, deceit, arrogance, is the path to hell. It's the philosophy of Cain, who murdered his brother Abel out of jealousy. It's the philosophy of the school shooter who decides that existence itself is fundamentally flawed and deserves to be punished. How do you resist this dark path? First, you must abandon ideology. That's Rule 6. Ideologies like Marxism, fascism, or any other rigid ism are dangerous because they provide simple, low-resolution answers to infinitely complex problems. They divide the world neatly into heroes and villains, the oppressed and the oppressor. They hand you a convenient group to blame for all your problems, which is a perfect breeding ground for resentment and self-righteous hatred. An ideologue sacrifices their individual conscience for the false certainty of a group identity. Instead of adopting an ideology, Peterson urges you to follow your own conscience. This is the heart of Rule 5. Do not do what you hate. He tells the story of a client, an immigrant from a former Soviet bloc country, who worked in a large corporation. She was forced to participate in an absurd, time-wasting debate about whether the term flip chart was potentially offensive. This seemingly trivial nonsense was deeply demoralizing for her. It was a violation of her conscience, forcing her to participate in something she knew was stupid and hateful. To act contrary to your own deepest values is to betray yourself. It shatters your soul and weakens your resolve. Instead of simply quitting her job, she found a creative way to fight back. She began giving talks at corporate conferences, using her position to debunk popular but baseless pseudoscience, like learning styles, that her company promoted. She found a way to stand up for truth, even in a small way, and in doing so, fortified her own spirit. Finally, to guard against the bitterness that life can breed, we must cultivate two final virtues: an appreciation for beauty and a sense of gratitude. This leads us to the last rules we'll explore. Try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible, and be grateful in spite of your suffering. As we grow up, Peterson says, we stop truly seeing the world. We replace genuine perception with pragmatic memory. A child on a walk is endlessly fascinated by a crack in the sidewalk, an ant, a shiny rock. An adult on that same walk is just trying to get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible, filtering out all the unnecessary details. We lose what the poet Wordsworth called the visionary gleam of childhood, the ability to see the world, apparelled in celestial light. Art, Peterson argues, is the antidote to this blindness. A great piece of art is a window into the transcendent. It reconnects us to the wonder of existence that we've gradually forgotten. Making one room in your home beautiful, whether with a piece of art, a fresh coat of paint, or just by arranging things with genuine care, isn't a luxury or vanity. It's an act of defiance against the drabness and misery that can dominate life. It's an invitation to the divine into your everyday existence. And this leads to the final and perhaps most challenging rule. How can you be grateful in spite of your suffering? It's not about being naive or pretending that terrible things aren't happening. True gratitude is only possible when you've looked unflinchingly into the darkness, when you understand how fragile and tragic life can be, and yet you still consciously choose to see the good. Gratitude is a courageous act. It's a decision to focus on what you have, rather than dwelling on what you've lost. It's remembering to treat your family and friends well, knowing they could be gone in an instant. It's appreciating the incredible gift of the society you live in, built on the sacrifices of countless generations who came before you. Peterson concludes that grief itself is the ultimate proof of love, and therefore a reason for gratitude. When you lose someone you love, the pain you feel is an uncontrollable, involuntary testament to the immense value of that person's life. Your grief is a declaration from the deepest part of your being that their existence, despite all its flaws and limitations, was profoundly worthwhile. And if their life was worthwhile, then perhaps existence itself is worthwhile, despite all its suffering. That is the final defiant stand against the resentment that threatens to consume us. It's the decision to love existence, despite its terror and betrayal. It's finding the strength to say, in the face of everything, onward and upward. So, what do we take away from this profound and challenging journey beyond order? If 12 Rules for Life was about building a lifeboat in the middle of a storm, Beyond Order is about learning to navigate the vast open ocean. It's a book that acknowledges the hard-won truth that the very rules that save you can, eventually, become your prison. Life isn't just about creating order. It's about the dynamic, living dance between order and chaos. The most powerful lesson for me is the radical reframing of responsibility. In our culture, we typically think of responsibility as a burden, a chore, something to avoid if possible. Peterson completely flips this idea on its head. He argues with incredible force that responsibility is actually the source of a meaningful life. It's not something you have to do, it's something you get to do. It's the opportunity to pick up a heavy load and discover, to your own amazement, that you're strong enough to carry it. The meaning of your life isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you actively build by confronting the dragons at the edge of your personal map. This book is also a powerful warning about the danger of simplistic ideological thinking. In our world of polarized politics and social media outrage, it's incredibly tempting to adopt a simple story that divides the world neatly into us and them, good guys and bad guys. Peterson shows us that this is a spiritual trap. The true line between good and evil runs down the center of every human heart. The only way to genuinely make the world better is to start with the person staring back at you in the mirror, to abandon ideology and instead follow the quiet, insistent voice of your own conscience. So how can you start applying these ideas today? First, take a moment to notice a small, abdicated responsibility in your own life. It could be a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, a mess you've been ignoring, or a promise you haven't kept. Instead of seeing it as a chore, try seeing it as an opportunity. Take it on voluntarily, see what happens. Second, try to make one small corner of your world beautiful. It doesn't have to be an entire room. It could be just your desk, the dashboard of your car, or even a single shelf. Organize it, clean it, and place one thing on it that you find genuinely beautiful. Make it a small sanctuary of order and beauty in the midst of everyday chaos. Finally, practice gratitude in the face of a daily frustration. When something goes wrong today, and something inevitably will, take a moment before you react. Think about something, anything, you're grateful for, despite that frustration. It could be the air in your lungs, a person you love, or simply the fact that you have the strength to face the problem. This isn't about ignoring the negative. It's about courageously choosing to see the good that coexists alongside it. That was our deep dive into Beyond Order by Jordan B. Peterson. We've journeyed through the core principles today, but here's the truth. A summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you engage with the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments when one of Peterson's ancient stories, or a particular turn of phrase, connects with something deep in your own experience. This summary is a map, but the real treasure is found on the journey itself. If anything we've discussed has sparked something within you, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning abstract concepts. It's an experience that can genuinely fortify your soul for the adventures that lie ahead. The link to the book is right in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the ideas in the world's most transformative books, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Billionaire's Bookshelf. It helps us reach more people who, like you, are on a journey to become who they could be. Let's keep growing together.